Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Orange First here on the DenverChannel.com and the Denver 7 app. All Broncos all the time. And your first look ahead at the Broncos' next game, which happens in NOLA. Way down yonder in New Orleans, everybody. Saints and Broncos coming up on Sunday. With me, as always, our Broncos insider, Troy Rant, and our longtime Broncos correspondent since,
74.
1974.
Yeah, back in the day when I used to go to NOLA for those big games. Do you know that
Tulane Stadium, right?
Yeah. Yes, I was there. Do you know that the Broncos' first trip to New Orleans, they lost 42-0, and it didn't involve Joe Montana or Super Bowl. They got shut out once badly there.
Was Archie Manning the quarterback back then?
Yes, he was.
There you go.
That would have been one of the few games those Saints won for Archie Manning.
For a long time, until Jim Mora arrived on the scene. All right, guys, look. The Broncos, they're in third place as we sit here today, behind the Chiefs and behind the Raiders. Raiders beat them in the black hole last Sunday night. Let's start with our Pump the Brakes with Brakes Plus segment and a little look back into the black hole just to see what we found out about this team. We do this every week. We found out they can't run and they can't stop the run, and those are pretty much two staples of winning in the NFL, Troy.
Well, the first time when they couldn't stop the run earlier in the season, Lionel, it was an issue of quarterback scrambles. So you felt like, oh, it's an aberration. Now they're just not stopping the run.
Yeah.
They gave up 200-plus yards on the ground. Latavius Murray had 3 touchdowns, 100 yards rushing. This has been coming for a long time. The Chargers gashed them. The Raiders gashed them. And the Broncos defense, I mean, you can look to blame them. The reality is this. They're on the field, Woody, for 88 plays. The Broncos were on the field for 56 plays. I mean, their defense is basically playing already this season an extra game by the number of plays they've been on the field.
Yeah, Gary Kubiak acknowledged it. He said, if you can't stop the run, and you can't run. And just to go a little further into what you were talking about, the last 2 games, they've run for exactly 90 yards since C.J. Anderson was hurt, and they've given up 320 yards rushing. Now, you think about that. That's 3 times as many yards rushing. I think the defense is regressing, and the defense is regressing. I think it's happening on both sides of the ball because of health on one side of the ball.
Defensively,
you're
no doubt.
going to be without 3 of your best players, 3 of your leaders, 3 of your captain types on defense and on offense. Looking through it, there was not one unit of the offense, and I'm talking about tight ends, wide receivers, offensive line, running backs, and quarterbacks, that were as good as the Oakland Raiders. If you think about it, if you look at each individual, the closest they come was maybe tight ends because neither team really uses their tight ends much.
Well, you think about it, the Saints had the historically worst defense ever last season. And for the last few years, they've been terrible on defense. This year, they're better at stopping the run than the Denver Broncos are. That blows my mind that the Saints are ahead of the Broncos.
Forgive me, but everybody is.
Except the Niners. It goes Dolphins, Browns, Niners are the only 3 teams
Buffs stop the run better than the Broncos do this year.
Well, it's problematic. I mean, we've kind of joked about it before, but now it's a gnawing concern. You can't win on the road when you don't even have the ball. They had 4 3-and-outs to start the game. I mean, that just begs the opposing crowd to get into it. Ooh. I mean, it's just been a false... And they keep allowing first possession points. 41, worst in football.
Can I just mention that I said to you guys last week, sitting right here, it's the old line that you are what you are. And you guys keep talking about keys to the game. They got to get off to a fast start. Well, guess what? They can't get off to a fast start. They're not equipped, and I've used that word to both of you. They're not equipped to get off to a fast start. If they're not going to start with Demaryius Thomas bubble screen or run the football 3 straight times and say, at least we're going to try this. If we're going to go 3 and out, why not run the ball 3 straight times for 2 possessions and then go away from it?
Well, at least you'd take some time off the clock.
Well, the whole theory behind this offense, which we've heard from Gary Kubiak himself, is run the football and the run sets up the pass. Well, they come out passing. There is no running the football to set up the pass. Have they gone away from their offensive philosophy totally, Troy?
I mean, I know with those first 15 plays, Woody and I have talked about this, they're scripted. But they keep trying to use the pass to set up the run. Well, they're not passing well right now. Trevor Siemian in the first quarter against the Raiders, 1 for 7 for 4 yards. At one point, Woody, they had been outgained 146 yards to 9, and the Broncos did not have a first down. I mean, so for me, they need to establish the run. That's the staple of this offense. Run the football, use the tight ends. They're not doing either. So
like
what
you
is
said? They can't run the football.
What is their
so
offensive? What is their offensive identity? And that's the other concern. They've scored 16 points, Lionel, in the first quarter this season, and that's
unreal.
That's the issue. So not only is your defense struggling to stop first possessions, the offense can't score in the first or the third quarter. And Gary Kubiak talked about it this week. That the first and third quarter, they're doing nothing.
Right.
They can't get off the field defensively. I mean, it looks like to me the defense is finally wilting under the pressure of having to carry the offense. We made light of it last year because the defense kept scoring, Woody. The defense can't score touchdowns every week.
I think that they're missing Alex Gibbs. And just let me make a short point here is that in the old days when Mike Shanahan, and I knew about this, when Mike Shanahan would script a play and bring it in on Saturday night to unveil it to everybody, Gibbs would go, no, we're not doing that. We are going to run the football.
Yeah.
The offensive linemen want to start out getting in the trough. They want to actually establish. They don't want to go right into pass blocking. So I think there's not someone speaking up. Because Dennison, I don't think he should be standing up for his offensive lineman. He's the offensive coordinator. He should be saying, Gary, I've been around you forever. I'm telling you, we're going to run the football right away.
Yeah, I talked to a former offensive lineman who won a couple Super Bowls, and he said if they would have brought that script in, that the lineman in the locker room would have went, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
this sucks. This sucks. They want to go at it like what he said. If you run the ball 3 times and punt, fine. They want to punch somebody in the mouth off the bat. They want to establish a little bit of dominance on the line. Even if you have to punt the ball, passing the ball is not an offensive
Russell Okung told me that on Monday, saying, hey, if you ask me as an offensive lineman, I want to run. And it's what he's talked about. It just gets him into a rhythm. It's just like a fight. Right. Okay, let's punch instead of ready, set, back up. Yeah. Ready, set, back up.
And I can't believe it. In last week, I've seen 2 of the worst scripts I've ever possibly been around. And one was the Jack Reacher movie, the new one. That is awful.
Worse than Ishtar?
And then I thought, when I
was going to go see that, so I'm glad you gave me a spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. It is awful, but it reminded me of the Broncos in the first quarter.
It's like the script of Vanilla Sky. There is absolutely no rhyme or reason to what they're doing there. And Tom Cruise is in both those, isn't he?
I like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. My problem with him in Jack Reacher is Tom Cruise is like 5'4", 140 pounds.
All right.
So the idea he's just going bad, it's hard for me.
Well, look, Woody brought it up is that the defense is suffering injuries, and that's not going to help anything now as we look ahead. Let's do the Xfinity X1 injury report right now. We got a bunch of guys on there, Troy. We got Derek Wolfe, Aqib Talib, Brandon Marshall, Kayvon Webster. And is Trevor Siemian still hurting?
I think he is. I mean, after the game on Sunday night, he required almost 40 minutes of treatment. The left shoulder, if you go back and watch some of the still shots, freeze it, he was hurting again. His completion percentage since the original injury has gone like this.
Trending down.
So, I mean, that's the thing I've always questioned is not can he do this job, is he durable enough?
Yeah.
I mean, he's 6'2", 6'3", 210. I mean, he's small by NFL standards. So, Derek Wolfe, we told you first at Denver 7, he has a hairline fracture in his elbow. He's going to be out multiple weeks. They don't know how far, but he's going to be out. Aqib Talib is expected to miss this week with the back issue. We're not sure. It's a lumbar issue. I think it's similar to the disc issue that DeMarcus Ware has, but he's going to be out more than likely. Brandon Marshall's got the hamstring issue again. Yep. He re-injured. I mean, that's what I'm saying. They have no margin for error, and they're missing key components. Woody,
you got the Saints offense to deal with this week, too.
And you're talking about those guys, but tell me about other guys that have really been out for most of the season. Sylvester Williams and Crick. Now, Crick was okay for a few games.
I defend Crick. He's a situational pass rusher. He wasn't brought in to stop the run. Sylvester Williams hasn't been as good this year. I thought he really made progress last year. This year he's just been, he has an impact play and then he disappears for a stretch. And they needed Adam Gostis to step up. He's not ready.
No.
He's not ready. Darius Kilgo was inactive.
Yeah.
So Gostis has moved ahead of him. I mean, the defensive line, they're shorthanded. You wonder if they're going to trick the scheme up a little bit.
Well,
Because everyone's like, well, it's the tackling of the linebackers. Well, if the linebackers are tackling a running back, that's a 5-yard gain. He's at the second level. The issue is they're getting pushed around up front on both sides of the ball. They're not physical enough.
Well, the answer, if I can just say it, is they do have to bring T.J. Ward up. And he didn't have a great day tackling, but he was a better tackler than most of the people up front. But I think you've got to say, we've got to have Ward in there.
Okay.
And you were talking about getting the linebackers. He's the one guy that I think can stop the run. Out of all the guys we talked about,
Yeah.
Ward can do it.
Yeah. We talked about the Saints offense a little bit too. Drew Brees, the number 2 passer, they average over 30 points a game. This is not a good game for the defense to kind of get well against, for the defense to kind of establish themselves again and say, okay, we're in the Superdome now. We're facing the second most powerful offense in the NFL behind the Falcons. This is a tough test coming up on Sunday. Woody, you wrote it's not a trap game, it's a setup game, right? Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, well, a guy wrote us last week, and he said, you're taking the Saints too lightly. He's absolutely right. They've won 4 out of the last 5 games.
Yeah, and they could have won that
playing
fifth
a lot
one.
better. They started struggling at home earlier this year, and that seemed a little bit odd, but they've come back, and they're winning at home as they have in the past. But you mentioned it. Drew Brees is number 2 in the league. So, I mean, he's aging well. And secondly, they are not as bad as the Broncos against the run. So that doesn't mean that you can just pile up running yards against them. And they're about the same running the football. They're both in the tweens,
Yeah.
in the middle of like 15, 16, 17. And so I think that it's not a people can say, oh, this could be a trap game. No, I think this is a setup game. And I actually looked up the definition. That means to me that the Saints should be favored in this game. That it's not a trap. They're not going to be trapped. The Broncos aren't. They're going to be set up because they're going to go in there because the Saints can smell. They can sniff that they can hang around now and be something in the league.
They're the worst pass defense in the NFL, but they're looking at the Broncos offense probably on film and saying, I don't care how bad we are. We can stop this team.
Well, that's the issue. If you think the Saints are going to score, if you have to score 30 points to beat the Saints, Broncos are in trouble.
Well,
they haven't shown they can do that.
Right.
I mean, they're just, that's the issue.
Yeah, I asked him the question last night, and I went back and looked at it today. They've scored over 30 points in one game this year.
Yep.
You're talking about a team that averages about 24 points a game in the Broncos.
Right. And
one of you already mentioned the Saints are averaging over 30 points a game. They've had over 40 twice. With this defense struggling, that's why I think it's going to be a real problem to keep them from scoring 30 points or so, because we just saw it with the Raiders, and the Broncos can't score. They're not set up, to use that word, they're not set up to score 30 points.
Well, Gary Kubiak was asked this week about, he's asked every week, basically, about is it time to get Paxton Lynch some playing time or time to make a change? Now, we talked about this on Xfinity Sports Extra on Sunday night. If Trevor Siemian struggles and keeps that downward trend going, they lose in New Orleans, they're at a bye week. Is it time to put Paxton Lynch in? Because what do you have to lose except more games at that point?
Well, if they're out of it, you will see Lynch.
Well, they may not be out of it, but they'll be.
But at 6-4, I don't think you will,
nosedive.
unless Trevor's not healthy, which is possible.
They might use that as an excuse.
But
hey,
I wonder.
Trevor's hurting? You know, well, we'll see. But
I wonder if they would bring Austin Davis in before Paxton.
Wow.
I mean, Paxton, they're not disappointed in as much as that he's just. The offense is different if he plays. And we saw that against the Falcons.
Different would be better.
Well, different can't be worse. I mean, that's the issue. But if they lose to New Orleans with the bye week, it's going to get interesting.
Yeah.
But I think the issue with Trevor is if he's showing he's still not healthy, that's an easy out. Not that Kubiak needs it. He handled Manny Osweiler last year, so it's not like he's afraid of tough decisions, Woody. But if Trevor's not healthy, that would make the decision for him. Hey, his completion percentage has gone down 5 straight weeks. We've lost 2 his shoulders messed up. He needs time to rest. That would pave a way for that. But, you know, if Lynch is playing, at that point, you have to question where to the end of the season, 9-7, 8-8.
We said that at the beginning of the season, and if Paxton is in the second half of the season, then the season is pretty much lost.
It's not going the way you'd hope.
It's not lost yet.
We kind of thought back in August, early August, that he'd be coming in around that time because Mark Sanchez would be the quarterback, and they would be 6-4, and you'd go, the season's kind of wasted. I totally agree with you, and I'd like to disagree because you shouldn't be right that often, but I even thought today maybe you take a sneak look at Austin Davis. But here's what's going to happen. If they lose this game, as I suspect they will, they'll be 6-4, and they still feel like they're in it. That if they could beat Oakland at home, beat Kansas City,
Right.
and
then they have Jacksonville, and they have Tennessee.
And that they're not going to make that change. I believe, though, that you go to Paxton Lynch and throw out all of this and go back to the Peyton Manning offense. Put him in the shotgun, which is what he played. You're laughing at me. Don't have a huddle.
Choo-choo, he's back on the bandwagon. It's like August all over again.
Yeah.
Call Memphis and have them ship up a playbook. I mean,
No.
Waffle House menu. Turtle. Duck.
big picture of Woody Page.
Quick picture of Woody. That means run.
What does that mean? Whoa, Woody means, okay, got it.
Picture of Omaha.
But yeah, at that point, like I said,
But
Woody had to
I will
lose.
say that it's interesting because the reason they didn't like that offense last year in the pistol or the shotgun is they don't run as well out of it. Well, they're not running now.
That's why I'm
So
saying.
that would be the other out is like, well, we're not running the football anyway. It's going to get really interesting if they lose
Right. I think
this
there's
Sunday.
a better chance they might try Austin Davis. Let's say that they struggle and they come out and they're behind 24-3 at halftime. Do you go to?
Well, he's got to be active. I mean, Davis hasn't been
What does it
active.
tell you about Paxton Lynch if he's, I mean, was Dak Prescott ready from day one? Was Wentz ready from day one? You got all these guys that are excited. Is Paxton Lynch just not there?
Well, he's not where Siemian
what's
is.
wrong with him?
He suffers by comparison. And if you used him, you could make him there.
Yeah.
But you'd have to change the offense a little bit.
But let me add to that. Why? Well, Wentz played in a very strong pass-oriented, and he is
And a pro-style offense.
Yes,
Right.
and even Hoff, that he came out of Cal, where it was a very sophisticated passing offense. Dak Prescott worked under a guy who had worked with Tebow and kind of really was a pro football centric quarterback kind of coach. Let's be truthful about Lynch. He went into a place where he never called plays. He was in the shotgun all the time. I doubt that it was a complicated offense.
It wasn't.
And as a result of that, and truthfully, I'm from Memphis. University of Memphis is not known for being a scholarly place that anybody could get into school there. Even I could have gotten into school there.
Well, there you have it.
So why did John Elway choose Paxton Lynch to run Gary Kubiak's offense?
Well, he likes the fact that he's athletic and he makes his best plays when stuff breaks down. He can scribble outside the lines. Who does that remind you of? John Elway.
Yeah.
When you scribble outside the line, no one is better than that at John Elway.
Right.
And when you go back and watch Lynch in college, when the play's breaking down, I mean, he's amazing.
Well,
And we might see him. Again, I think it would be more an issue of Trevor's health than anything being demoted per se.
All right. Well, let's get to Woody's rant right now. Then we'll make our predictions for this Saints game. Woody, what kind of got you this week?
It's the national anthem, and it's not in the direction that people are talking about. I heard Donald Trump earlier in the week talking about he was disgusted by what Colin Kaepernick did. I'm more disgusted, and I have been for years and years, that if we are to treat the national anthem with respect, why don't the singers treat it with respect? And I heard the national anthem just a few nights ago before a college football game, and I felt like, really, everybody is trying to win an Academy Award or get an album or be all over social media. And so if all those people, including you out there, who are so offended by somebody taking a knee during the national anthem and not respecting it, why aren't you offended by people in Baltimore who say O's at the end of the national anthem? The people in Dallas, when they say stars, they go ballistic there. But more importantly than that, that if you have people singing the national anthem, and I'm not talking about the lady and the singer that was in the NBA and wasn't allowed because of the T-shirt she wore.
Wasn't allowed to sing.
That didn't offend me. It offends me a lot more when people decide to take the national anthem and sing it in a way that is not, in my mind, respectful of the United States and your national anthem. So why don't you same people who do that and write me about, oh, you can't compare Tebowing to what's going on this year. Well, it was. It was a statement. It was a religious statement. So let's show some respect for the national anthem when you sing it, either in the stands or on the field before a game.
I once saw Slash play the national anthem on his electric guitar, and it was strange, to say the least. Lady Gaga was awesome at the Super Bowl, though.
She was?
She did a great job on the national anthem. All right. Well, let's do our quick predictions here. Woody, what happens in the Superdome in NOLA.
Well, I've already given an indication. I think the Saints win.
30-20.
He didn't use that number this past week, but it was finally 30-20.
It was 30-20.
But I've already mentioned that the Broncos score about 24 points a game. That's their average, and they've mostly been under that. So I think the Broncos are going to be in the range of 20 to 24. I will say 24. And the Saints are going to be scoring 30, just like the Raiders did. So 30 to 24.
Basically, almost exactly what their averages are, 30 to 24. Makes sense?
I have similar. I have the Saints winning 28-20.
Wow.
I just, without Wolf, without Talib, I don't think the Broncos can win. Now, prove me wrong.
Right.
But offensively, they've got to be better because the defense can't be on the field against Breeze for 75, 80 plays because the Saints will score, as you know.
Well, I'm going 34-20 Saints. I think, hey, I'm from New Orleans, so you can say it's a homer pick this time. It's a homer pick. I'm picking the Saints, but I just think the injuries are the problem with the Broncos defense. Brandon Marshall's not healthy. Without Talib, Roby kind of struggled against the Raiders a little bit.
Right.
You got Dawson Nixon in there. They're going to have to come in, and they're not ready against Drew Brees and that offense. I just think this is the week that I pick against the Broncos for the first time, and Saints are going to take this one to the Dome, and then maybe the Paxton Lynch era begins. Who knows? We'll see.
I thought I'd never see an earthquake in Greeley or him picking against the Broncos, and we've seen both.
All right, Troy and Woody, that's it for this edition of Orange First. We'll see you after the Saints game. I hope we're all three wrong about this. I really do. We'll find out, and we'll see you next week.